I have my rice cooker. I have water that has roses sitting in it overnight. So you can see it is really red, and that's just from one night. And I like to do it just to make sure I get all that rose out of the actual herbs and into the water. And then I have my empty container that my rose water is going to go into. Now, some people would consider this rose water. Well, it really isn't. To make real rose water, you have to distill the water. That's what we're going to do today. I'm going to show you how to distill the rose out of the water so you have nothing but the healing properties and pure distilled water. So the straw. Now this is important because my tube, I have a tube here, okay. My tube is too big to fit in there. So what I do is I take the straw that fits in there just perfectly and I put it in there. And I'm going to go ahead and cut off to right there. Make sure it's sealed, fully sealed. Okay, there we go. Now that is how the steam will come up through here and it'll come out the other end of the hose. We're going to use gravity for that. Oh, straw's bending. You have to make sure the straw doesn't bend, otherwise you won't have any flow. So I have to take my lid off and I'm going to put my rose infused water. That's what it looks like. And put my lid back on. Plug it up. Plug up my rice cooker. We're going to go ahead and put it on cook. Get it started. Get it warmed up. Like I said, we need to use gravity. So I'm going to take my jar, my empty jar, and I'm actually going to put it down here. And I'm going to put the tube in the top of here when it starts steaming, and then all of the liquid will drain into here. Now because my straw keeps bending and I'm afraid it's going to break and then it's going to lose its seal, I'm going to put some tape on it. This is just going to ensure that there's a seal. Make sure there's no breaking and breaks in the straw. And hopefully give it some support at the same time. Now, as you can see, it's starting to get steamy in here. It's warming up. And we'll come back when it's starting to boil. Alright, as you can see on the lid, the steam is starting to form some condensation. And then you can also see in the tube, the steam filling up the tube. As it gets heavier with more and more steam, it'll drip down. Now as you can see the condensation on the lid again, and now you can see that it's formed in here in the tube, and it's already got some liquid falling into the empty container down here. As you can see, the water is dripping in there slowly but surely. Now, a few tips that I learned during this little experiment was to first tape down the hose, because it gets really hot and you don't want to hold it in place, and you want to make sure that it's not going to be flopping around and then falling out of the container collecting the water. Another thing is the lid started moving around, so I put this towel here to soak up any of the water, because it was the condensation that was collecting right here at the edge of the lid. And so I had the towel here to collect that water and soak that up, and it also keeps the hose in place and it keeps the lid from turning back and forth. Another tip is, if you look down here, as you can see, I have my jar in a saucepan, and that's for a good reason. Is I had ice in there and you can see it all melted and it's just water now. The purpose for that is to help the water turn back into its liquid form by cooling it off. The other reason for that, for doing the ice, is to keep it from evaporating out the top, and that's why I had this lid here. I wanted to make sure that nothing was going to evaporate out during the process, because it is very, very, very hot water. It's boiling water when it comes in here. I mean, it's steam that is coming through the tube and down into the glass jar, and by using the water, the cold water and ice, it helps bring the steam back to liquid. Now, as you can see, that rose is pretty used up, but I'm determined to get every bit of liquid out of here that I can. So I'm continuing to cook it just a little longer, getting a little bit more of that condensation and steam out of there. Let's lift the lid real quick so you can see inside. Oh, steamy. Alright, that is completely done. There's no more liquid that is going to come through our tube. So at this point, I'll go ahead and unplug it. And show you what you got left. This is what's left. As you can see, the flowers are all brown, and that means that all the good nutrition has been sucked out. Alright, so that's how much is left after distilling it. It's got the measurements there on the side of the glass. A little under 200 milliliters. Now, one more thing you can do to make it even stronger is, if you have rose essential oil, you can add it to it as well to make your rose water even stronger. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take my rose water that's in the container that we dropped it into when we were making it. I'm gonna go ahead and pour it into my glass measuring cup. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in here, and then I have it in a nice glass dropper bottle for later. Now I just got to put labels on them and they're good to go.